We are in the Ascension time, right? And the way my team explains it to me is the Ascension process is going a little slow. The idea of accelerating the Ascension, like let's get rid of all the hard work for that person. Let's give them the opportunity to jump into their own divine self or their own human nature.
Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Glenda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week. If you enjoy our conversations, remember to subscribe, share with a friend. This week, I am speaking with Ken Lloyd, a mystical guy who happens to channel and heal and who has the most incredible story. I'm very excited for this conversation. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invite. I'm excited to be on your show and certainly excited to share a little bit of my story and, hopefully touch a little bit of the audience at the same time.
We all want to wake up and to access greater of our potential. And you have a really interesting story how that opened up for you. Can you share a little bit of it?
Yeah, well, we'll start with the cliff notes. So my background before I was awakened, if you will, was cybersecurity. I've created 3 cybersecurity companies and they're all have been acquired. It was during the third company, which was in 2018. I had developed a pituitary brain tumor, which, by the way, was a cortisol tumor wrapped in a cortisol cyst, massive stress in my life. And through the acquisition process, I found myself triggered one day. And I went to lay down. And as soon as I lay down, my body was electrified. And my stomach went up in the air, massive arch, and I was frozen in position. I think it was 2 or 3 minutes. I honestly don't know how long because it just was so intense. And I felt this warm energy in the abdomen area, and out of the navel came this energy, if you will. And I had no idea what was going on. I didn't have any spiritual background. I had no religion. I had bits and bytes, ones and zeros. That was my life. But that moment changed everything in the idea of what just took place. As an analytical guy, as a guy that says, I need to understand how something works and something functions, that's exactly what I did. I woke up the next morning and all of a sudden I felt peace, a very angry, tumultuous time in my life. And I couldn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand what happened to the body. So I started Googling as much as I could, right? Energy in the body led me to consciousness, led me to the energy fields and aura, right? I started researching and, the more I researched, the more down the rabbit hole I went. And it became almost an obsession. So what took place is I learned to detox my body. I got off all the energy drinks. I got off the prescribed ADHD medicines, right? Started eating healthy and things started changing inside of me. And not only that, but what I thought was just an interesting moment literally was my awakening process. Now, the first year and a half or 2 years, it was really, really slow, right? I would get frustrated because I'm reading these things, oh, you're supposed to meditate. Okay, well, what is that? Wasn't very good at it. No. But as I'm moving through these, I ran across a book on energy healing, right? I started reading this and, these little exercises that are in the books, I'm talking to the former wife and, the friends, and they're like, yeah, we can feel it. I'm like, no, you can't. No, you can't. You're just messing with me. But I went ahead and I took a modality. And it turned out that in the modality, I was doing the work. People were validating, strangers were validating these shifts that were taking place. So now my awareness was like, there's really something that shifted and changed it. So the universe has an amazing way of bringing people into our lives that help us understand our journey, whether that be the psychic down the street you never met or somebody across the world. But this lady ended up in front of me one day. She says, you're a walk-in. I said, what's a walk-in? And the little light bulb went off. Said, oh, new term. Got to find out what that meant. And as I am doing this, I find there's an interview of a woman talking about walk-ins. Well, this is Miss Sheila Seppi, who at the time had just released her book, Walk-In Cosmology of the Soul. Bought the book, read the book. In the back of it are stories of walk-ins. And I'm like, wow, that really resonates. Now, they're all different. Every walk-in has a different purpose. But I get on the phone with Sheila. I hired her to do a session on me. And she says, yes, you're what's called a soul braid. So let me explain to your audience real quick. That day when I felt that energy coming out of my stomach, that was the moment that all of my life trauma was removed. Now, I had birth trauma, I had business trauma, I had all the trauma we would normally have, but it was all removed at that time, including fear. Really, really strange. But the idea of having an NDE-like experience, I think it's also called a spiritual transformational experience. This is what happened. I don't remember it myself, but you could metaphorically think of the idea of the tunnel opening, but I didn't actually go over. Instead, one soul came over into my field. And this was that little voice, that little tug that says, go read that book. Go learn this thing. Go down that rabbit hole. Turn off the news. Change your diet. That was, I didn't realize what was happening, but this was that driving force that kept me moving along in this journey. A soul braid walk-in is the idea of having another soul aspect, not an entire soul, just an aspect of it. And I look at soul aspects as tools in a tool belt. That soul aspect was a tool to help me learn. In my field, like a braided rope. I wasn't interacting with him, but he was pushing me along this journey. So as I move forward, things start changing about 4 years into it. Now I'm on year number 7 at the time of this recording. So about 4 years into it, massive shifts start changing. So I believe it was in April of 23, I had a session being done on me. And in that session, the lady looks at me, she says, 12 more souls just arrived. I'm like, what? 12? So now, not only with the one, I had 12 other soul aspects that were in my field. So I was calling myself, the soul braid of 13 at the time, because I really didn't know. But everything in my life amplified. I was already doing healings on people where the body would shift in real time as I'm talking to them as this is happening. But now 12 more arrived and amplified more and more. Well, that was interesting. I didn't feel these things. Like I didn't know they were coming in. But in December of 23, that changed massively. That changed my life again. So I get this little nod that says, Ken, go meditate, which was unusual because I don't meditate. So I went into the little closet and I sat in my chair and I'm frozen in position again. I couldn't itch and I couldn't twitch. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And in my mind, I started to ask questions, what's going on? What's happening? And then this voice clearly comes across in kind of a little bit of a hectic type of thing. He says, Ken, we're a little busy right now. We'll get with you in a moment. I said, oh, what was that? And then they turned off my ability to ask questions. In meditation, I believe the goal is to quiet the mind. They did that for me for 13 of the 15 minutes. All I could do was observe this intense light energy moving through the body. That was the day my higher self stepped into the body and began changing my life in very massive ways. Typically, when you have a walk-in experience, it's what they call an exchange. You have a near death, your soul will walk out and one will come in, and there's a contract involved, and they're high vibrational. That comes in and it begins the mission to do the bunny ear quotes, whatever that is, but it didn't want to take the whole route from birth up to that moment. Typical. When they come in, the life changes. You end up filing for divorce, you end up moving, you quit your job because you're not that same person. Well, I thought I was out of the bag, like it wasn't going to happen to me. 3 weeks after the higher self walked in, I was asking for a divorce. And it's not that I had a tumultuous marriage. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. But I had now shifted the vibration of my field and my physical body to the point where I could no longer have the partnership. I had to do a solo journey. 17 years. Within 2 months, I had sold all of my race cars and my classics and sold everything that I had owned and gave everything else away, put the house up for sale in Naples, Florida, and found myself in Mexico by March. I don't speak Spanish, and I've never been out of the country, but I'm in Mexico, and I end up in a place called Jalapa. And Jalapa is a very spiritual place. There are no cars. It's horses, donkeys, and four-wheelers, and you get there by boat. I was there for a month, and about the third week into it, 9 more came into the field. So now I'm sitting at 22 soul aspects, right? And I'm in what my team called the Great Reset, the isolation, moving to another country, being single, not necessarily by choice, and then removing all my material wealth and my goods in my life. And not only that, but my team, we call them our team, also turned off all my revenue income while I'm doing this. So let's fast forward to the next incredible awakening moment. And that was in July, just after that. Now in July, I get the message, go do Cambo and Bufo. Cambo is a process of using this frog poison to open up the cells of the body. Bufo is the process of introducing DMT into the system. I don't like either of those things. But that was a transformation where during that process, those 22 that are in my field all merged into a single collective with me in the body. So there's another term for that that's coming around called an omni. And I just heard this the other day. It's called an omni consciousness stream, where they all operate as one. So this is kind of who I am. This gives me the ability to heal, and we can use the term miracle for a moment, and the idea that a miracle is defined as something positive happening to you without a logical explanation. So not necessarily a biblical reference, but my team performs miracles in seconds where the pain in your shoulder will be gone within moments. Your posture returns, the bones become realigned, so on and so forth. So the team I have is all from the divinity realm. The ascended masters, archangels, and so on.
I have so many questions, Kim.
I'm here to help.
So first of all, these 22 entities or beings that have merged with you, they're each an aspect of your soul, or they're a separate entity?
Chikadari and Mobayoko, this is them talking as well. A little bit of both, right? They are aspects of me, but I have 4 oversouls in my body as well, or in this field. And the way my team explains it is some of those ascended masters are part of different oversouls, but with the mission I have, those oversouls has been assigned to this experience. So they're not all me, and it's not as if I am, the ascended master. It's just a tool in the tool belt that they arrive. I have a lot of these because the mission I have are millions and millions of people. So therefore you need a pretty big toolbox.
Absolutely. And the first few spirits that came in, you weren't aware of. Someone told you, but now you're aware.
Every psychic needs a psychic. Every healer needs a healer. So there are certain people in my life that will help me understand what's happening. It's interesting in the idea that through my awakening journey, I went through the same struggles most of us do. Tell me more. Are you there? Talk to me, right? And even this week, they go quiet on me. So I have them off to my right, and I have one voice, one personality who's very humorous, but it's actually all of them as the omni consciousness stream. It's just how they present. If I was to have individuated conversations, I think I would just lose my marbles, right?
The other thing I want to touch on is how this actually started with that 15 minutes of being totally frozen and unable to move. It's not common, but yet it is common. Maybe not for that long. I've had experiences, I know of other people who have had experiences where their body just freezes, for lack of a better word, that you can't turn your head, you can't move your arm. You're in your body, but you're not in your body. You're aware of what's happening. It's a really different phenomenon that people aren't really going to understand unless they experience it. And just for the people who may experience that in the future or who have experienced it but don't understand it, could you give just a little bit of insight to help them understand it better?
I understand it now better than I did then. So the same thing happened to me about 4 weeks ago. Different in the idea that my physical body, the cellular structure has been altered over the past 7 years to hold high frequencies, very, very high frequencies. The cellular structure, if you will, the energetic fields around me had reached their maximum potential. I woke up Wednesday morning about 4 weeks ago, unable to animate the body, and my emotions were void. So it's not that I was in a high vibration or a low vibration spectrum. They weren't there. And I'm now wondering what is happening. My team swapped out all of my chakras, all of my energy fields, and my holographic template so that I could continue to transform or evolve. When I look at what just happened to me, and I go back to that moment when I was frozen for those 15 minutes, this is what was happening. They had turned off the energetic fields around me, which create our physical body, so that they can move these new energies into it and then turn them back on and begin the next transformation process. So for me, it was, in a very positive word, but a manipulation of the energy field so that they could come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one experience where I was frozen and the top of my head energetically flipped up and I could feel all these fingers rewiring
Mhm.
my pathways. And it was a definite shift in energy. And I'm going to say nothing that I was afraid of in the moment. I'm still not afraid of. It was just like a really interesting experience, a really unusual sensation. And there is a level of trust with the higher spirits that you work with, right?
There is, and it's odd in the idea that I've never had this exposure in my life. And once it happened, I was drawn into it with absolute trust and knowing, but literally with blinders on, have no idea what was going to take place. And had you told me 7 years ago that, hey, this is coming, I'm not so sure I would have made it through that transformational experience in one piece. It's just so massive. But inside, you're right. There's that knowing that it's okay and this is an alignment, even if you don't have answers to any of your questions. It's strange.
Now, one thing as you recount your story is that it really happened to you, that each of these episodes happened to you. You didn't seek them out. You weren't trying to become something different. Obviously, you had a contract on this, but
Yeah.
I'm curious whether at any point that you had the choice that you could have said, no, no, I don't want this.
It's a fair question. And I think in the beginning, I could have. But what has transpired since then, I don't have that ability. And I'll explain a little deeper. 27 years cybersecurity. I'm some of the original inventors of antivirus, anti-spyware. Okay, so understand that mindset of the ability and what have you. If it's not email, I can't do it now. All of my abilities in the computer realm have just dissipated and disappeared. I couldn't do that anymore. There's no going back. And I will tell you, as I moved through this journey, there was intense moments of frustration and anger. Tell me what's going on. I want to walk out. I'm so I can't handle this, these things, right? And I have asked to walk out. We've got walk-ins and we have walkouts. But my mission is millions of people. And My team's like, just relax. You're not going. You don't have the permission to leave like that because you're so integral to what happened. I'm waking up to who I am. I don't have those past life memories as we know some folks do. I don't have the story of hovering above the bed or having that moment for good reason. I have done this job, I call it my job, billions of times. I show up during the period of ascension for a species, and I bring in, let's just call it the heavy hitters. I call it the heavy construction company, right? To begin removing in very fast ways those lower vibrational energies we call dis-ease, so that the collective can rise up to this next version of human. So as I recognize the importance of my role, the desire to leave isn't there anymore. But yes, I think in the beginning I probably could have, but it was just such a draw.
So many of us really look to express more of our true self, and yet it comes at a cost. There is a huge transformation that happens in one's life.
Yeah. Yeah. I've given up everything, everything that was beautiful in terms of what we would typically define as beautiful, right? All the rewards of success. I've given up all of that. But I also know that what I'm receiving now is so much more in alignment with me, right? I've lost
More
the
beautiful.
more
It's
beautiful.
more
It
beautiful.
is. It is. So, I have the ability to go purchase things, but I don't have the desire just to collect stuff like I used to. Being connected to someone in conversations like this holds so much more value than me running out to Target to buy something to be a little funny. It all shifts. And the gratitude that shows up every single day, brings me to my knees and gives me the tears when I see somebody who had an issue and then moments later they don't. It's mind-boggling, and it touches the heart in ways that you can't substitute.
And now this mission that you're on to touch millions of people, for exactly what purpose?
So think of it like this. If you've never experienced a miracle in your life, again, a miracle defined as we did earlier, how would that change you if you experienced discomfort, if you experienced emotional trauma you couldn't relieve, and it was gone moments later? What happens here is it creates what I call a spark inside of you. The same thing that happened to me when I was frozen on that bed. What just happened, and how do I figure it out? How do I get it again? No, I didn't want to be that again, but the point is when you have that enter inside of you, that Christ and light, that energy, it's undeniable, and you will then seek out your own healing. You will then begin your own journey of awakening to maybe a better part of your human experience or your ET experience, so on and so forth, whatever that is. I'm here to put that spark into millions of people so they can begin their journey with their local psychic, their local healer, their local tribe.
So it is more than just physical, but can be physical, can be emotional, can be psychological or
Check,
spiritual.
check all the boxes. So for those who are already healers in that profession, they get, well, we'll use the term up-leveled or upgraded. Their new codes will come in. For those people that have that strong extraterrestrial connection they're trying to create, they will come into the session. For those folks that are trying to reach their divinity, I call your upline, like your multi-marketing upline, because I don't have the background. I can't give you these terms. But for those that are trying to go up, they will come down into your consciousness and have full-on conversations with you. I am a connector to all of those energies out there to bring them into you, to take your struggle away, to bring the thing you're asking in the now, and to give you that miracle and that conversation you're looking for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful mission and something the world could use more of.
Mm. It's time. We are in the ascension time, right? And the way my team explains it to me is the ascension process is going a little slow. So now they're bringing in folks like me, and there are others that are here to do some very heavy lifting, is what we call it. And the idea of accelerating the ascension, like let's get rid of all the hard work for that person. Let's give them the opportunity to jump into their own divine self or their own human nature. Again, whatever their path is. Now. Now, 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 now. So it's time. Everything's being accelerated.
And earlier you had mentioned the records of creation
Mm.
when we were talking. I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
So it's a library of creation. So let me explain it the best that I can. It sits in the same astral field as what the Akashic Records are. This is different. So I don't know when the Akashic Records became available to humanity. I think it's been here for a very, very long time. But as the collective raises their frequency, more tools are available. And now the library of creation is available. We are creators. It's also a library of everything that's ever occurred in any universe. Everything you'd ever want to know is in the library. I take people into the library and I show them how to access and see their past lives. I'll give you an example. So when we have discomfort, and I love to pick on my shoulder. When we have a discomfort in the shoulder, you could have childhood trauma attached. You could, and this is just the energy of it, right? Ancestors, past lives, emotional trauma. All these things contribute to the energy that's trapped. So you can go into the viewing room of your past lives, and it looks like a theater. You'll sit down in the chair and you'll talk to the library. Please show me on the TVs in front of me the past lives that are contributing to the pain in my shoulder. And the TVs will start popping on. And then you can either go into the TVs to view it, which I don't recommend. We're not about the story. We're about getting the job done. And then you'll tell the library, heal and release. They'll start turning off and you'll start feeling the energy move in the body. One of the areas that I think is a huge struggle for people are those childhood traumas. We all have childhood trauma, defined in our own way. But we don't remember a lot of it, but that really shapes how our body shows up, our emotions, our limitations. There's a room that I call the room of your childhood memories. And when you go in there, it's a beautiful white room with an open window, a little cardboard box. And you will simply say to the library, show me an object that represents the childhood trauma, insecurity, or why I have inability to have strong relationships. The objects will show up and you will give that object gratitude, love, forgiveness. It'll change shape, disappear. What's happening here is the energy that's associated with that moment is being released. And you don't have to remember the trauma. You don't have to relive it. You don't have to recall it. And you certainly don't have to forgive the person or the thing or the event. But it's a way to release without the pressure or the stress of, hey, oh my God, what happened? And do I need to go through it again? Not at all. So every place in the library is like this. So creation, you're a creator. And you're creating that timeline where this no longer hurts. And there are a lot of places, a lot of rooms, a lot of things. So this is what's happening. People are getting access to tools to heal themselves rapidly.
I've been to that place a long time ago with all the TV screens, and it was fascinating. I had a guy that was leading me in front of it. It was like NASA is what I thought it looked like, all these screens. And if I looked at one TV screen, I was in that life. So I had to like really consciously see it in my peripheral, but not pay any attention to it and just keep following. I always thought that was the Akashic Records, but perhaps not.
Yeah, the library of creation. In fact, when I instruct people to go into that room, I'm like, show me the TVs blurred and out of focus. You don't need to know the trauma you went through at the very end of a specific, experience in your journey. You don't need to know that. But one of the most amazing rooms in there is what I call the conference room. White room, white chairs. And you will invite your team in to have what I call an eyeball to eyeball with them. and they will show up and sit in the chairs, and they will have a discussion with you and help you understand some of your questions. It really does bridge this access that we're looking for. The library is the conduit for all of those things that you're looking to heal or to access, and it continues to evolve. And while you may show up in that room, right, the past life room with a certain configuration of TVs, the person next to it will be different because it is morphing to the way you're going to respond to it. So it's the new tool. So the library of creation.
Fascinating. And I can see the benefit of having that conference room because our minds like to know. Like, even though you can heal just like that, a lot of people wouldn't because they want to understand.
Mhm. Yeah. And again, even when I do my one-on-one session, if you're spending 30 minutes with me, 15 of the minutes we're talking, and there are no stories, I'll connect to that condition you're asking me to look at. And I'm not a medical intuitive, right? I'm not doing that, but I'm seeing the energy, energy field architect. I shift all your fields into your alignment, but I will go in and within a moment, they'll tell me there's two past lives associated with the shoulder. And the angels will come in, pull the energy out, which is the healing for that life. And they give me a trauma ball. And that happens in seconds. Same with all of the stuff I do. So that, what I call keep it simple, the KISS principle, keep it simple, silly, right? This happens. And again, this moves over to the library. So we don't need the stories. We don't need to know what has occurred. We do need to know what we have to do to heal. Right. Is this something else attached to me? Is this what I call the yuckies, right? The darker energies, right? Or is this just something that I need to be aware of? But the tools are here now. And I'm, again, here, the team. I say I, but we all know it's not me. We all know it's the team. They're here to do some very, very big lifting for folks.
And this is using energy to heal. It's not necessarily that you get the message that you need vitamin B or some physical.
I won't allow my team to do that to me. And I am going to say to me for a moment. Any healer that shows up and begins a nutrition recommendation or a medical recommendation puts themselves in jeopardy, right? A legal jeopardy. So I've instructed my team from the very beginning. I don't want to know the medical diagnosis or what's happening. I don't want to know if a medication is creating something. And I don't want to deal with nutrition because there are specialists who deal with that. And I am not here to step on anybody's toes. There are professionals. I'm simply here to see the energy in the stomach that's creating the condition of fill in the blank. I'm here to amplify, clear, repair the DNA. I'm here to connect your DNA to your extraterrestrial lineage, right? Open up the body. Any request that comes through, the team will deliver through light language coding. I don't need to know how to do it. I set the intention, work on the part of the body you're asking. They come through, they show up, and they're doing all of the work. I'm just the conduit. I'm what's called a hollow bone. So as the light codes come down and out the throat chakra, I don't have the ability, nor do I want to interfere with that pure, raw channel. When it's happening, I'm in the back of my head looking at my tongue, looking at my mouth, and I'm like, hey guys, I can see the frequencies come. And I'm having a conversation while this is happening with them. I'm looking at the left side of my tongue and I'm like, oh, I see some frequencies. And I see it off the right side of the tongue. And I make fun of them like, what, you can't get the middle of the tongue? You can't do that? But meanwhile, 5 of them are pushing those codes through. But yeah, I'm literally just the conduit for this.
And do you actually see the stuck energy in people's energy systems while you're working with them?
I do when they're one-on-one. All right. And every 3 or 4 weeks, my team will shift up how I see things. They continue to teach me how to do this energy work. But when I'm doing the groups, and I really am here for the groups, I don't see that. And when I am in a group teaching, I will bring all those energies into a single hologram and look at the one hologram. And this gives me a clue on the progression of what's happening with the light codes. My day to day, I don't see auras around people. I don't have the empath ability around the body. You know, sometimes you can move next to somebody. They turned all of that off because of the mission, the job. Me absorbing the energy of millions of people is probably not going to go so well. But as soon as we connect, it all comes on, and I can see everything in the field, everything in the body, everything up there. I can have coffee with your team if we want. It's all available.
I'm curious, Ken, is anybody around you that would like to leave a message for our listeners, provide a healing?
We're gonna do a healing. We're gonna use the light codes. The channeled messages, right, from the team will be arriving soon. I'm never going to stop evolving. I'm an elevator that doesn't stop. Where typical journey is, we get a bump in consciousness and we absorb, integrate, and then it happens again. I'm this elevator. So every couple of weeks they upgrade me, just to use that term. So we're going to use some light language now, and they're going to come through with different tones and different experiences. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to, unless you guys are driving, don't do this.
Do you have any recommendations for the listeners? Should they, sit with their eyes closed or
Just close your
choose a-
eyes and visualize the night sky. Just allow whatever to show up to show up. We'll begin.
Okay.
Sholiati ariati elati enokolati eskadari adonte rechkadari melaro terra skadari nechkiri apabiote eskadari karakter to shinin to beriatoria mariaro skadari nechkiri kini kinishkiri ada pregato shuru. Mapa akudu skadari no ariari and kinishkira toriani and yechkinia taro tori marotario skadari no diania ariaka. I shakati kitiki to the laboratory and roti scatario mariati ataria silio. Kutu skadari bigiskian the Jordan Arvo no to the chikapa kitikutoria. Adesso corro dottor della Mariata Roscadorio no scuderia Bria attaccati che ci dorgamana o discadia Coria Mario Regieni mamma la terra di retescadaria no tutto di pagia Charlotte scudo di tutto di capa adi capo scudo e io ci dia pa lo scudo Shalaro di mamma killaro sotto no shakaria ki ai laro tutto di papaka asia ki mekikia Kurko to dia anayatia. Arearo toria mamaria retira sharotu. Mamaya nia tatakat katichkitira tara taroskania tusko. Papa koti ama papa piati di chukurio kurio. Maroteskadiria tara nia diskinia di la rotoria mamara shara rotusko. You can just come out of that when you're ready.
Very, very interesting, Ken. I could hear different voices. I could definitely feel quite a few sensations from throat, third eye, around the eyes.
Yeah, and it'll go on for a couple of days for folks, right? And one of the things that people typically report is a shift in the energy in the body, meaning that they'll feel heat somewhere that's discomforting, and that's that releasing. Other people, their knees will be, taken care of by the time they get out of the car. Not that they're doing while they're driving, but even with their eyes open, they're still receiving. What I like about the idea of just visualizing the night sky, we can all see that, right? There's no long guided meditation journey. Just close and receive.
And is there any benefit to listening to that light language channel more than once?
Yes, it'll continue to unfold and unpack, like a compression algorithm or an onion. You're going to integrate the first layer, you'll listen to it again, and more codes are there. The other thing that's beautiful about what they deliver is it doesn't matter if there's one person in front of me or 1,000. Every person gets something different that is aligned to them with their timing and their journey. So it's not a cookie cutter approach that says, on this day, we're going to deliver this energy because that planet happens to be right there. And I am being funny. I am a funny guy. There are people that are there to deliver those. For me, it is, you're going to get the exact thing you're ready for, and maybe a little more.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Ken.
Thank you for allowing me to show up. I appreciate you.
Now, where can we send people who want to know more about your work?
So it's kenlloydofficial.com. And most of my social media is kenlloyd.official, whether it be Facebook or YouTube. I do weekly groups, as an example, at the time of this recording. And Wednesday nights, we will sit together for about 30 minutes. And over a course of 4 weeks, I will work on all the systems in the body. Solid light language for 30 minutes. You just need to sit and receive. Now, what happens after that is I open up the chat room. What do you want the team to work on? And we'll spend another half hour longer going through the list of everything that everybody needs, right? There's that. I also teach people how to access the library of creation so that they can amplify their own journey, right? And then I do a lot of events, and all of my events are listed there. And I do a lot of free stuff in my social media. A lot of my recordings are on YouTube. As we say, taste test for you, dip into the water, put your toe in there to see if it resonates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com. Explore how energy medicine can benefit you, and we will see you again next time. Bye for now.